We love the Wurzels on the afternoon show, and let's be honest, who doesn't love the Wurzels? My next chap, who I'm going to speak to, is a West Country legend, and he loves the Wurzels because he's going to be one of them. Good afternoon, Andy Ford. How are you?
Hello, lover. How are you?
Love it. Love the accent. You all right?
I'm all right, boy. Yeah. It's a tribute show to the late, great, and wonderful Mr. Adge Cutler.
Yeah, where are you going to be? I know you're coming to the Macmillan with it in a few weeks' time. You're going to be Adge Cutler. Don't tell I tell he. Where are you going with it?
We're all over the West Country. The Somerset venues that might interest some of your listeners are Midsummer Norton at Somervale School. Then I'm at the Regal Theatre. That's Midsummer Norton is the 14th of September. The Regal Theatre in Minehead is on the 20th of September. That's a Friday. Then on the 26th, you're right, I'm back at the Macmillan Theatre in Bridgewater. I was there recently for a stand-up and had the most fantastic night. So I'm very excited to come back to Bridgewater.
My parents went along to that, and I've seen you in Panto when you've been up the Hippodrome. My parents are big Andy Ford fans. They've seen you a few times. Yeah.
Did they have a good night?
They did have a great night. They came back raving about it. Thought it was brilliant.
Well, proper job. Yeah, and it's a lovely theatre. It's quite a modern theatre. So to bring the Adge Cutler tribute show there is very exciting, Andy.
Tell me about it then. Don't tell I tell he. That's some big shoes to fill, isn't it?
Adge Cutler. Well, a couple of years ago in Bristol at the Redgrave Theatre, which is also on the tour this year, I played Adge Cutler in the musical Drink Up Thy Cider. So I actually played Adge in that musical. It was a musical about his life, all the songs and the tragedy of losing him at a young age, 42 years old. Early hours of May the 5th, 1974, we lost Adge, who created all this Wurzel mania, all these songs that we love in the West Country character wouldn't have happened without this wonderful man. So it's my tribute to him in Don't Tell I Tell He. It's not a tribute to the Wurzels per se, because why would you want to do a tribute to the Wurzels when they're out there doing it anyway? Pete and Tommy are there. If you love the Wurzels, go and see the Wurzels. This is a nostalgia trip back to Adge Cutler talking about his story, how he created all this, all the songs, all the jokes, and we're doing it like an Adge Cutler show would have been. So it's going to be a concert form. I'm going to chuck in the story in between the songs. There's all the songs to sing along to, but the difference with this is I talk about the perspective of what Adge Cutler meant to me as a young lad growing up in Exeter, because I started gigging. I learned banjo specifically because I wanted to play Adge Cutler songs, and I did my first show at the age of 12, and Drink Up Thy Cider was one of the first songs I ever sang on stage. So no Adge Cutler, no me.
At the age of 12, you were doing gigs on stage?
Yeah, and this Christmas Eve, I shall be in pantomime again, obviously, this Christmas. I'm with my friend Steve McFadden from EastEnders, and on Christmas Eve this year, it's my 50th anniversary of being a professional performer.
Well, tell me let's go back a few years then. Not that many years, because you're still fairly young, but let's go back a few years to what Adge Cutler did mean to you growing up, because he still is a West Country legend.
He started it all, Andy. I mean, I was a young lad in Exeter. I used to listen on my radio, and we used to go round to my gran and granddad sometimes on a Saturday night, and everyone brought their records, and we'd sing along with the records, and it was all the stuff of the day. Guy Mitchell, Tommy Steele, all that. And then someone brought out this record called Live at the Royal Oak in Nailsea, and played it, and it was like a lightning bolt. Like, wow! Not only is that fun, but he sounds a bit like I. he's got our West Country accent, and of course, one of the first singles I bought was "Drink Up the Cider." But on the B side, and this really got to me as a young lad, there was a song called "Twice Daily." Yeah, and it's a bit rude, and you'd play it when your mum and dad weren't about. You'd play it on the little record player. Do you remember them record player? Well, you don't, you're too young. They used to look like a little suitcase. And you'd
I remember those.
Open them up and the record player was inside. We used to use that at the youth club. Well, we'd play the B-side and sit around laughing, and we used to play it at school. So not only were the songs good and was it West Country, but it's a little bit cheeky for a young lad as well, of course. The combination of all those things made me really interested. And then when I started gigging, because I've always been a bit of a performer, I was in the church choir for ages and all that sort of thing, talent contests, I wanted to sing his songs, but not just his. I was a fan of George Formby as well. And what a joy, Andy, when I tell you, to find out that Adge Cutler was also a fan of George Formby.
Oh,
In fact,
brilliant.
I wish I were back on the farm, which everyone knows is an Adge Cutler song,
Yep.
written by George Formby.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Yeah, when he was born in 31, so he grew up through all the music hall times. He used to love songs like Oh What a Beauty, I've never seen one as big as that
the
before.
Marrow
The
song,
Marrow
yeah.
song.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that was Mary Lloyd, sung in the 30s and 40s. So that's the stuff that influenced him growing up as a young lad. And he was what influenced me growing up. The other thing, I mean, I've always had this affinity with Adge, which is why I want to do this tribute, because I want to bring him to new people, and I don't want anyone to forget him. Here's the most poignant thing. On the day that we lost him, which was the early hours of the 5th of May 1974, coming back from Hereford.
Yeah, wasn't it
The night
Chepstow?
before, yeah. Well, he was playing in Hereford, but it was around Chepstow, just before he got onto the Severn Bridge on that roundabout. That's where it happened. Well, the guy he was working with on that last night, last show of his, was a guy called Aidan J. Harvey, and he was an impressionist. In those days, there weren't 24-hour news, so, people will remember how they heard that Adge went. This is how I remember it. On the Sunday night, the next show for Aidan J. Harvey, Adge's support, was in Exeter at the Clifton Labour Club. And he came in for a sound check, and the group to back him were called the Vic Palmer Sound, and their lead singer was me. The guy that worked, the last supporting act that worked with Adge, on the night he died, the next night, he was working with me in Exeter. And I've always felt that connection, sort of thing.
What was it like when you heard the news? Because clearly one of your childhood heroes.
Devastated. And that night we sang Adge's song, Drink Up Thy Cider. And the other thing is, when I did the play in Bristol to Adge, John Miles, Adge's original manager, turned up to see it. He actually walked in rehearsals, scared me to death. I'm looking for Adge Cutler. Not only is John Miles supporting me in this show, but he also represents me now. So all those connections are unreal, aren't they? And, I can do some Andy Ford gags in between the songs and messing around. I've got a great live band I called them the Scrumpies.
Did you speak to the family or the rest of the Wurzels or anything like that for research, or did you sort of know enough?
Well, I read the autobiography that's out there, which is called Adge Cutler, King of the Wurzels, but mostly I get my information from John, who was there at the time. Like, for example, it was John Miles that set up the recording studio at Abbey Road, where the Beatles did their song, because Adge wanted to make records, and he'd gone to John, and John spoke to his friend, because John was a pop group promoter, spoke to his friend Bob Barrett at EMI Records, and they said, bring him up to Abbey Road Studios. Bob Barrett loved the music, but felt they should do it live, so they booked the Royal Oak in Nailsea to do the first recording. It holds, apparently the function room holds about 80, and there was about 300 in. So that first recording, that went absolutely, we would call it viral nowadays, but went absolutely crazy, was recorded in a little room above a pub in Nailsea, where Adge